So the High Republic book Into the Dark came out fairly recently, and I was able to read it. Kind of read it. I listened to it on audiobook. Um, Not Audible, but a different Libby. It's through the library basically. But anyways, that's not why you're here. You're not here to hear how I heard of it. You're here because you want to know what I think about it, and if you want to tell me what you think about it, which I'd love if you would do so with the chat, or if you're watching the video instead of the live stream, you can do that through the comments, and I'd love to read and respond to those, and maybe make a segment if you got a lot to say or something. I don't know. Who knows where conversations can lead? Um, but I'm just gonna start ranting about this book. So, my first reaction to the book was, okay. So overall, here's what I'll say: this book has a lot of characters at the start. There's you don't really know what the end game of the plot is. Like the characters don't like in a good story. The characters have a goal, and they get closer and closer to this goal until the end, and they get this goal, and that's the story. It's like at the beginning of the book, you promise your reader you are going to get to this thing, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be great. And there's twists along the way, but like Luke defeats the Empire. Um, Anakin, or like Padme frees Naboo. Like you might not know exactly what's going to happen, but you can tell that the characters are working towards something. And in this book, it's kind of like, well, they're just kind of doing things. They're trying to figure stuff out, I guess, but it's like, I don't know, it's a bit directionless. And add to that, there's a lot of characters, and okay, not a lot of characters. There's a lot of points of view that they show. Because some books have like a lot of characters, but it's all from the one person's point of view, or maybe a few people's point of view. This one is just like all of the characters' point of view. Like there's like 8 different characters that they have points of view for. I don't think it's quite 8, but you've got Reed Silas, you've got uh, older Jedi who is male, you've got older Jedi who is female, and by the way, there's too many of them for me to remember their names, and frankly, their names aren't that interesting. So, um, I just got to think of them some way. Then you've got uh, Leox something, uh, basically hippie pilot. Then you've got uh, female like person Reed's age pilot. So there's 5 of them. Who else do you have? You have uh, Belzetifar or something. I don't remember if that's his name or if that's a different one. But you've got another Jedi, and this one has a blue lightsaber, so that's how I remember him. Um, I think that might be it. There might be a few other characters that you see briefly, but those are like the main ones, and that's like 6 characters. Um, on the other hand, you have books like The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which I've been reading that series recently. It's pretty awesome. If you haven't read it, you should probably read those books. They are excellent. But you have like Kaladin, Dalinar, uh, Adowin, and Shallan, and like those are the main 4. But then again, those books are like twice as long, and also there's 4 of them out now. So I mean, they have expanded to other characters over the course of those 4 books, but that's like 8 times longer, so you can have 8 times more characters. They don't have 48 characters for you to read from, so it's yeah. So and then you have other books like say, um, what is it that like Bloodline? That one has Leia. You've got Senator Rankin. I think that's his name. I don't remember for sure. Maybe one other, maybe 2 others. I don't know, but it's like 3 characters. It's not 6 characters. And this is a problem I feel like has been in not only this book but also Light of the Jedi. Um, and so yeah, that problem made it a big struggle for me to get through the not just the first part of the book but also the middle part of the book as well. That and as I mentioned before, the like directionless. Like I didn't know who the bad guy was. I didn't know. Like I guess their goal was to survive or maybe fight off this dark side, unexplained dark side thing, which is another problem I have with this book. Is there's this unexplained dark side presence, which I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure about. Uh, yeah. So. Oh, and yeah. So, but then after the middle part though, they kind of got a direction. And I'll go into the specifics a bit later when I get to the actual spoiler part. But it did get better. Um, Although now that I think about it, that's about all I have to say for the non-spoiler section. So I may as well get into spoilers now. That being said, this is your spoiler warning. So if you do want to read this book, after hearing what I had to say about it, which the ending is pretty good. So, I mean, if you're willing to get through that beginning part, or I don't know if you just like lots of characters or you think you can get used to characters pretty quick, I don't know. Then you could definitely pick up the book. It's a good book. And if you're kind of on the fence, I would say just pick it up. Um, I mean, worst case scenario, um, you listen to. I don't even know. And all it costs is time. I mean, you could buy it. You could use like Audible or something and buy it through a subscription service. I just got it from the library on audiobook through a app on my phone called Libby. It's awesome app. I love it. Doesn't have all the books, so I do have Audible as well, but that's like once a month, so I use both of them. But yeah, anyways, yeah, so definitely pick up the book if you're interested in it. Um, yeah, but with that being said, I am going to get onto a spoiler review, so be warned, there will be spoilers for this book. Um, that being said, the point when I think it went from being a boring book and a bad book to being a good book and an interesting book, actually an exciting and intriguing book, is they get back to the Jedi Temple and they realize, oh shoot, the dark side presence is still on there. We didn't bring it with us, or like we released it basically. And at the same time, Reath is like, oh wait, that person was a Nihil. We got to go back and stop them from getting whatever they were after on that outpost. Um, and so they go back, and as soon as they like had a mission, as soon as Reath is like, I'm gonna stop the Nihil. As soon as the other two Jedi were like, I'm going to stop this dark side presence, which ends up being the Drengir. Um, that's when I feel like the book picked up. Sadly, I didn't feel like the other characters. I don't remember her name. The other person on the main cover, um, her plot line wasn't as interesting to me. I did like Leox's, like the other pilot. I did like his, not really his plot line, but just his character. I just feel like it was kind of interesting to see his reaction to the Jedi and his reaction to, or his relationship with the other characters of his crew and his reaction to the Jedi. That was pretty cool to see. But mostly I liked the Jedi story. They were a lot more interesting to me, I guess. The one was just like, she was denying the obvious truth, you know. It wasn't as, I don't know, just something about it wasn't as interesting to me. And it could be a problem not just with her, with the problem, but also with the character. Like Reath, he doesn't like adventure, but at the same time, he's learning to kind of like adventure a bit. You know, it is kind of fun. Then you've got the other two who are struggling through, like, what does it mean to be a Jedi? Why is the Jedi good? And they're kind of questioning their beliefs a bit, which is interesting. I love the discussion there that brings up. Even though even though I am a big supporter of like the Jedi way, when it comes to the fandom, like a lot of people are like uh, very interested in this idea of gray Jedi now. Like, oh, gray Jedi is the true Jedi way, and like Qui-Gon is like this gray Jedi, and like using both the dark side and the light. And it looks like we got a chat. Awesome. Hello there. That's like my first chat in a while. How are you, Weir? Uh, so, anyways, hello. As you can probably see, I am doing a spoiler discussion, just in case you just got here, of Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. So, lost my train of thought, but Um, what was I talking about? I was talking about um, right, the discussion, like Grey Jedi and stuff. A lot of people are super interested in this idea right now. Um, that the Grey Jedi is like the true Jedi way, and frankly, I'm not of that opinion at all. I think it's kind of silly. But like when characters like these two Jedi who are struggling with is the Jedi way the correct way, even though I disagree with like questioning it, I think it is definitely the better way. Like it's very interesting to see characters struggling with it, and to kind of hear the argument on the other side as well. So yeah, I like that. I like their characters as well as their plot. As for the bad guys, the Drengir, they're pretty interesting. I like the idea of the Nile, just these ruthless people. I do I do feel like they're a bit over the top and just kind of like evil for the sake of being evil, if that makes any sense. Like most people aren't just like evil for the sake of being evil. Like for example, Vader has a tragic backstory. Um, like Dooku, he's trying to save the Republic. Maul was trained from a young age. Ventress, lost her master, like her father figure. All these characters they're evil, yet they have their reasons. You don't agree that like they're still doing evil, right? You're not like um nice. Minecraft is fun. I like that game. I was playing earlier today. I'm doing a massive dig with um yeah, like have you heard of Hermitcraft? Leave that in the chat. While I talk about this. Um so yeah, anyways. Um where was I going with that? Oh man, I keep losing my train of thought. Sorry guys, I need to get better at streaming. Um yeah, so I was talking about Grey Jedi, the Drengir, the Nile. Right, okay. So most people are evil for the sake of being evil. Um as I was talking about, Ventress lost her father figure. Who else is there? Who else is a bad guy? Tarkin grew up in like this society. Thrawn isn't really that evil. Like all these characters, they're you disagree with their choices, but you understand their motives. And I think that's when you have a good character. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but you have to understand them. And that's when you can empathize with them. That's when you can start to get invested in the characters. Um, and I feel like the Nile are hard to get invested in because, and like even as a bad guy, um, you still want to be invested a little bit in them. Like obviously you don't want to be like rooting for them to win, but at the same time, it's often great to see redemption arcs. It's great to see um, characters struggling with the morality of killing them. Um, there's a lot you can do when you empathize with the villains. So it's a lot harder to, I guess, connect with them or understand them. It's hard to understand the Nile because they just seem to have no motivations outside of just being evil. Like I guess get wealthy, uh, gain more power, but like it's just seems kind of empty. That being said, though, they're a pretty interesting villain because like they're so ruthless, um, and the the whole power struggle. Like when you get past the fact that they seem to have no motivation other than getting more power, um, it's often interesting to like I guess see their see their power struggles like and not so much in this book but like in the light of the Jedi, uh and I think this is a lot to do with the voice acting which was excellent for this particular character, but the leader of the Nile, the Eye, I believe is called, that guy was pretty interesting to read, and although I disagree and think that there are better characters than Jar Jar, he very well could be a real Sith Lord, and I love that theory so much, even though I don't believe it's canon, and I don't think it will ever be canon. I still love it, and frankly, I don't want it to be canon, but I still love it. So yeah, the Darth Jar Jar theory, awesome theory. I love it. Do you know who came up with that? I guess I've never wondered that. Hmm. What was the first video you saw that, or do you remember? The first Darth Jar Jar video I saw was by Lockshin and Noggin. If you've heard him, he doesn't really cover Star Wars that much, but he did that one time, and I was like, ooh, that's an interesting theory, and it's like a 40-minute video. There's so much evidence for it. It's great. But yeah, back to Light of the Jedi, and I'm pretty much done discussing the Nile, but the Drengir in this book with the other bad guys, they are also very interesting. Because they are, I guess they're similar to the Nile in that they are like pure evil, but at the same time, they're not human. You're clearly not supposed to understand them. Like whereas the Nile, they're human. They have clear motivations. I would like to understand them a bit, but the Drengir, it's like they just want to eat more meat. They want to spread across the galaxy. They want to flourish and grow, and that's all you really need to understand. They're not human. You don't need to assume that they have like a conscience. Whereas with the Nile, it's like, well, I don't understand why do they think it's okay to just kill people? What justification do they use on themselves to basically be able to live with themselves after doing all the things they do? Whereas the Drengir, it's like, well, they're not human. That's just kind of who they are. So character wise, the Drengir are pretty interesting. Now, if they wrote a book later down the line that tried to humanize them a bit, that might be a problem, just based on how they do that. But I think the more interesting thing with the Drengir is their various powers, um, and and actually, what's most interesting to me about the Drengir is their history, with the I forget the name, but the ancient civilization that the Amaxian warriors. That's what they're called. Those guys, I want to hear more about them. And then the other thing is the Drengir were trapped by the Sith, which that is very interesting. And man, it makes me really want more Old Republic stuff, right? Like you would think we get the High Republic, and they're gonna kind of not want you to want the Old Republic, because I mean, a lot of people were asking for the Old Republic, and they gave us the High Republic. People like felt kind of betrayed by that, and now the High Republic is making me want the Old Republic. Um, Good question. What other colors could be in lightsabers? Um, so obviously you've got green, blue, red, purple, white, and black. Then you've also got in Fallen Order, you've got a whole bunch of colors, which, um, oh, okay, so they've kind of been canonized. Like for example, let's say the color orange, that's been in Jedi Fallen Order. Some say it's canon, but at the same time, there's no canon characters who use it because canonically, Cal Kestis uses a blue lightsaber. As for what other colors could be in lightsabers, oh, by the way, I missed yellow. Those are used by Shadow Temple guards and Rey. As for what colors could be in lightsabers, I don't know. I guess, pretty much all of them. I guess. I mean, what colors couldn't? Like, I would say gray, but we already have white and black. Like the reason I would say gray is because it's not really a color. It'd be hard to make a glowing gray thing. But at the same time, we already have white. We already have black. I'm sure they could find a way to make a gray look cool. You could do like a teal. You could do a reddish orange. You could do a pink. You could do a light green, a dark green. Um, I don't know. What colors I would want to see is probably, yeah, dark green. That would be cool. Like see how in like look on the screen where I forget his name, the main character of the book. He's holding his lightsaber. It's kind of like a light green. Whereas if you contrast that to like some other ones like Yoda's, his is a bit darker. I really like green lightsabers, and I think the darker the better. So yeah, I think a dark green one would be awesome. If I had to choose a completely different like hue rather than like a different shade, I would probably choose um, hmm, probably like a yellow orange, so like a golden color. I think that'd be pretty cool. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what significance it would have because like I know green and blue, or like green is like a more calm and force based, whereas blue is like more honorable and like warrior based, like lightsaber fighting. And then purple is kind of like a mix of dark side and light side. Then you've got red, obviously that's the dark side. Uh, like they have some significance. I'm not really sure what like a yellow, like a golden one would, but I think that would be the color I would go with. Um, so yeah, another interesting thing that really confused me and honestly kind of disappoints me um, in this book is the lightsaber colors of um, what's her name? I forget her name. It's the female Jedi Master. She's got white lightsaber blades. Um, and yeah, I'll get to your question in a second, Bweer. But yeah, she's got white lightsaber blades, which, as we know from the Ahsoka book, you get white lightsaber blades by like healing red kyber crystals, which um, we get from the comics, like the Darth Vader comic, and I believe it also happens in the Kyber Ren comic. You get red kyber crystals by making like normal kyber crystals bleed, and then obviously then you get white ones by making them on bleed. I guess I don't know. So I guess my question is, what do you how do you think she got those white light like kyber crystals? Like I don't know, that just confuses me, and I hope there's an explanation. I think that would be awesome if they have an explanation, but if they don't, and it was kind of like, I want a character with white lightsaber blades, that'd be pretty cool. I feel like I don't really want them to be making decisions like adding new colors just because it would look cool. I guess I would hope there's some significance with that. But getting onto your question, can Obi-Wan beat Mace Windu? Um, so I would say let's look at their okay. Let's start with their like physical abilities, like their fighting and lightsaber fighting and all that. Um, I think Windu is probably a little bit better. He's obviously a lot more offensive. Um, I just think he's a bit more dominant and quicker. And if okay, so if two people are equal in fighting, I think whoever's more offensive is going to be able to win usually. And this isn't always the case. They could get tired, and then it could sway to the other person. Um, Another option is the defensive person could be like leading them into a trap or something, or just baiting them into making a mistake before they can take them out. But I think usually the person who's more aggressive is more dominant and they're more controlling. They're controlling the fight more. And I think that would definitely be the case with Obi-Wan versus Mace Windu. Um, and then you look at their force abilities, and while Obi-Wan's force abilities are pretty powerful, I feel like Windu's are more powerful, and he does use them more. It seems. So I just think Mace Windu is just a bit better in pretty much every way. Maybe not tactically. I think perhaps I could see Obi-Wan. Um, Again, he's very defensive. He could lead Windu into some sort of a trap, basically like a place where he's got the advantage of a position or something. Kind of like his fight with Anakin, where he gets him to the high ground. It could end up being something like that. Windu is oftentimes very arrogant and all that kind of stuff. He could fall into some. He could run into some pitfalls there, but I do think Mace Windu would win, probably 8 times out of 10. And it depends on so many factors, like the terrain, um, how much sleep they've got, how what they had to eat last night, all this kind of stuff, how they're feeling, what their emotional investment is in the duel, what time period especially. Um, there's just so many factors in a fight. Um, but I do think Windu would win most times, especially if it's like a very flat terrain, with like if it was a um, hmm, what terrain would benefit Obi-Wan? I would say a terrain like Mustafar might, But the problem I have with that though is that Windu can probably move Obi-Wan around a bit more with like force pushes and kicks, and just generally he's the more aggressive one. He's gonna be pushing him back, so Obi-Wan could fall into the lava a lot easier. But maybe like the factory, the trade or yeah, the Trade Federation factory on Geonosis, um, that manufactures all the battle droids, that could be pretty beneficial because Obi-Wan could potentially lead Windu into a situation where he can take advantage of Windu's overconfidence and take him out uh, some, I don't know, cunning way. But at the same time, it's not like he's going to be constantly in danger of falling over the edge of some like railingless walkway or getting knocked into like a giant spout of lava popping out of nowhere. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I would say Windu would win 8 times out of 10, but there are scenarios where I could see Obi-Wan winning. Uh, can you explain what you mean by the chat is the translator? I don't get it. I don't get it, that one. So yeah, can Obi-Wan beat Mace when you corrected Windu? And then is the translator? Yeah, I don't get it. And there is some delay. So if you've already chatted in, I haven't quite seen it yet. But while you wait, or in case you're not gonna chat in or whatever, I don't really know. I'm gonna try and recollect my thoughts on the High Republic book. Finish that review. So I talked about the Drengir and the Nile. I talked about the main characters. I talked about the plot. What is left to talk about? The connections to other books. Yes, okay. So, one of the huge appeals of the High Republic era is that they planned it all out. They had this, that was a huge point when doing the publicity for it and all that. It's like they had all the creators get into the room and they were like, we're going to plan this out. And they wrote a bunch of stuff on a whiteboard and all that kind of stuff. And like, that's because they clearly did not have a plan for the sequels, and so they're kind of like making sure the fans know, hey, we got a plan for this one. Wink, wink, not the last one, but we got a plan for this one. So I do like that, and it means there's a lot of connection between like the comics, which I haven't read, but I kind of know the story of a bit, but also the books, which I have read all of them. So mostly for now, it's just been they're all happening in the same time period with the hyperspace disaster. The other connection is what's it called? As you just see a lot of characters like at the beginning and end of books, all at the Starlight Beacon, like Avar Kriss. You see, I don't remember the Mirialan from Test of Courage. I believe you see her at the end of the book, or maybe at the end of one of the other books. But anyways, you just see them at the end of the book, usually, and I think they'll probably do a bit more connecting later on. Kind of like how with Marvel, like the first Iron Man movie was separate from the first Captain America movie and all that, but eventually they all got together in one book. Like there was a few scenes at the end of the movies where you'd see them together, but really it's at the they all come together in like one climactic book, I guess. And it's probably something like that where maybe they all fight against the Drengar in one awesome battle. At like 5 books into the series. But yeah. And then, however, all this planning does have some problems, which one of these, I think, is that they have too many characters, that they need to introduce so much stuff. I feel like they need to, like, weave these characters in all at once. They have it all planned out so it doesn't flow as organically, I guess. So I think that the problem with having too many characters is a result of them perhaps over planning. But at the same time, it's not that big of a problem. I feel like it's definitely worth a plan, and it's more the execution than the planning is the problem there. But yeah, another thing, I think the biggest connection in this book, and something I'm kind of excited to hear this plotline develop more about is the impact of Jorah Mormor's death, which is Reath Silas's, I believe that's his name. Reath Silas's master, Jorah Mormor, was killed in the battle against the Nihil, which I won't get into my problems with that. But yeah, and that started like turning Skier to the dark side, which he's been a pretty main character in the comics from what I've seen. And you see a little bit of the start of his slow turn or his slow descent into darkness in the what do you call it, in the Light of the Jedi book. But I think you're seeing more of that in the comics, and then at the same time it also impacted like Reath Silas. And so yeah, I think that the plot line there between the potential for Reath Silas and Skier to like go on a mission together and kind of discuss this more and work out these, I guess, these problems a bit. And then also there's what's the one guy, Reath Silas's new master. He is he's I'm blanking on what I was gonna say. He is struggling a bit with denying his emotions and whether that is the right thing to do, and whether it's actually worth it to deny your emotions just so you can have a like clearer frame of mind. Um, and like emotions are what makes us human, and how can you deny them? Everyone has them. So he's kind of struggling with all that. So Reath Silas, the apprentice of Jorah Mormor, the other guy who's struggling a bit with the doctrines of the Jedi, and Skier, who could be an example of what happens when you ignore the doctrines of the Jedi. Maybe teaches the Master or Reath Silas. I just think that there's a lot of connective tissue between those characters that they could really use to tell a powerful story. So I'm pretty excited for what they do in the future of the High Republic. It's a bit shaky right now at first, to be honest. There's a lot of characters to keep track of, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of like proactive action. I'm not sure if that statement is redundant. It probably is, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of proactiveness among the main characters, which leads to it feeling kind of a bit boring and directionless, I guess. At least to me. And feel free to disagree with me in the chat or in the comments. But I don't know, that's just how I feel about it. But at the same time, I feel like this connective tissue is just planting the seeds. Like it's gonna take a while to get into it, but once those seeds are planted, it's gonna be a really good story. So I'm excited to read those books, do those reviews, and experience Star Wars with you guys. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and may the force be with you.